Hi, this is Dr. Phyllis Edwards, Dr. E, coming to you with The Widow Speaks. This is episode 14, and we have been very, very blessed to be able to get out a lot of information over really a short period of time to help widows. That is the main reason why I started this, was because I was going through something and had no idea what I was going through or how to get through it. And I felt like there must be a lot of other people like me that are just trudging through it one day at a time, trying to make it work, trying to find things that make you not feel like you want to rip your hair out or go running, screaming into the woods. So in doing something, I thought, well, let's take it from the top, and if you go back and you can find these episodes on any of the major ones that do podcasts. This is powered by, U.S. News. This is Flagler Voice that we're coming from, and they have been gracious enough to sponsor us, which is a big deal. But we are reaching people. If we are reaching you and you're a widow, that is the main goal for us. Please, if you would like the information, go back to the episodes that have been released. You can find them on YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, and a lot of other venues that are usual for podcasts. So I've never done a podcast before, so I am definitely the new one on the block. But I think that it must be reaching people, and I hope that if you see this or come across it and you know of someone that could use this information, that you will direct them to our path. I don't think things happen by accident, and I have met a number of just wonderful people that are also interesting in giving back to their community and helping people that are struggling. And we know that there are between 11 and 13 million widows in the United States and Canada, and I was shocked to learn that about half of them are living in poverty. So some of you may not be able to go to a financial advisor. Some of you may not be able to go to a grief counselor or a psychologist or whatever, a safety expert. We have interviewed a lot of people with a lot of good information. And today is no different. We are going to interview Bianca, and her name is beautiful, but I'll probably mess it up. Nozu.
You got
Did
it.
I say it right?
You did.
And she is a certified financial advisor. She's a wealth planner. She has all the mathematical brain going on. And it's interesting because when we first started to speak, I had written from my own head, and I talked to you about it, The Widow's Guide, and it was about all of those paperwork kinds of things that I had to do, and I started it within the first, month. And as I said in the second podcast, you have to keep circling back around, trying to figure out if people got what you thought they were going to get, and if you did it right, or if you forgot something. And it's so funny because when I first talked to Bianca, she had written an article. So I'm going to introduce Bianca. Thank her for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You have a CDFA. What is that?
So CDFA is Certified Divorce Financial Analyst.
Interesting. Okay. And RFC?
So RFC is Registered Financial Consultant. So that's
goodness.
something that you have to be in the industry for a specific number of years to qualify for.
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay. And NSSA?
That is a National Social Security Advisor. So I help folks understand Social Security, especially at the claiming times, and when they lose their spouse, what their options are.
And there's a whole lot to that. We know that. And you work for WJ, William Joseph
Capital Management. I'm an independent advisor, but that's the firm that I'm aligned with.
Okay.
It's actually owned by 3 partners, 2 of which I've known for several decades. So,
Right.
Personally, so it's a wonderful family environment as a firm that
Right.
I'm able to enjoy and bring that to my clients as well.
And you got a big heart, I know that, and you like to help people.
I do.
And I know you've told me about clients that you have that, might even call you on your cell phone and say, I need to talk to you. Something
Yeah.
happened, right? And you
Yeah.
call them right back, which is wonderful. But we got to talking because I had written this and you wrote an article. So from all of your expertise, knowing the details, knowing the information, you wrote this like really good article. And you have it there. What's it called?
It's called With You on the Journey, A Road to Stability and Strength After Loss.
I like it. So how could they get that? We'll talk a little bit more about what's in there, but is there a particular place that they might go to, or should we have them like write into or comment in the show and
Yeah.
say maybe that this is something we want to know more about?
Yeah, so comment in the show I think is the best for right now. I am working on putting it together, binded beautifully like yours is.
Thank you.
So I will have that for distribution. It's also up on our firm's blog, so we can maybe put in the show notes the link to get to right to that blog.
Okay. And when you go through all of this, when I did it, I just wrote it from my head because I was so frustrated. I'm like, I've got to talk about this. I've got to get it out. And actually, writing is a good way to get it out. Yeah. But it's funny because when we started comparing notes, almost every topic that I touched on, you went and talked about in great detail. So then when I saw yours, I thought, oh, okay, that's not too bad. I'm doing it from my experience, but you're doing it from your knowledge, which if you put the two together, really, that's a pretty sound document that you can count on.
Yeah, and my knowledge too is based off of working with widows and widowers for over 25 years. So it's things that I've learned from individuals like you, helping them go through the process. So, and I was so inspired when I saw that you had written something like that, coming from a place of help, even as you're going through your own. That's an incredible thing. But I've taken suggestions and feedback from so many of my clients to put that together. So I can't take full credit for it.
Well, you could take a lot of credit. We're going to give you the credit today because and the other thing about you, and I will say this, and I said this before in my second podcast, a lot of people don't get it. They don't have the compassion. And I understand maybe you haven't been through it, but just the compassion that you need to deal with people as they're going through what I would say is one of the worst phases of their life. Yes, till death do you part. You're about 20 something when you say that, and you have no clue what it means. And, it just upends your life. So talking to a professional like you could be scary in and of itself. How do you kind of put people at ease? And I think it's pretty easy with you because, I can read it all over you, but there must be some things that you do that kind of set the tone.
I think I am a nurturer by nature. And that's can be few and far between in financial planning.
That's true.
But I come from the position of really wanting to help people. So when I was growing up, my family had health and wealth problems. A lot of times they run hand in hand.
Sure.
And so I always felt like if we could just get the numbers organized, if we had some knowledge and we put some plans together. And it was interesting because shortly after my marriage, my husband and I were high school sweethearts. And, something, washing machine broke and we were able to just go to the scratch and dent,
right,
get a new washing machine. We paid cash for it and it was over in a day.
Right.
And so that was just kind of the genesis for that relief for me set the tone for what I feel like is my career. And then just working with so many people of different genres in life.
Backgrounds. Sure.
Yeah. And then, knowing when you get to a point where we're all going to be unfortunately losing our spouses, being able to be that person that could give them just a little bit of peace of mind,
right,
really fulfilled me. And it still does to this day. So I think for me, just looking at everybody individually as a human, realizing that they have their own story.
Right.
They have their own story within their marriage. They're doing things now for the first time, maybe, that they've never had to do before.
Yes, that's true.
And
taxes.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But yeah, it's just so for me, just being able, my brain thinks in numbers. And so if I can help somebody,
Right.
then that's what helps me feel good at the end of the
See,
day.
that's very unusual. So you've got really both sides going on. I think you got you got the numbers side, but you also want to do, what's right and pay attention to the affect of people and where they come from and where they're sitting right now so that you can help them. And I think that's a wonderful combination. So
you.
thank you for what you do. You must feel, I hope you feel appreciated because you really deserve to be.
Thank you.
So we met quite by, I think, accident. We were introduced by someone else and we got to talking and we started looking at your article and my little pamphlet, if you will. And it was funny because the topics were so similar. So what I think we should do is just kind of delve into them. Like in your expert article, what did you see as the first thing that you wanted to talk about to everybody so that they could get a handle on it?
Well, you say expert article, but after meeting with you, I actually added something
Ah,
that I
well,
didn't
thank you
already
so much.
have. So that's why I said that this is a, it's a
conglomeration.
yes. So I think the first thing that's important to do is to, in the early days, get some type of book or binder. There's going to be a lot of things that you have to now do, and you're doing it at one of the hardest times in your life.
Right.
So you're going to need to make notes. There's going to be forms and different things. So having one place that you can bring, everything's in one place. If you have to go to the attorney's office, you bring that. When you have to go to the CPA's office, you bring that. And taking those notes, because you're not always going to remember everything they say. And then if you have a trusted person in your life that can come with you on some of those appointments, I think that's really vital. The other thing I would say that's not really in this article is that if you see one person, one professional, and you don't feel like you necessarily connect with them, don't give up. Don't force yourself into working with maybe who you and your spouse worked with before or who a neighbor recommends. You deserve to be treated with dignity and to feel heard and educated in this process.
Well, that's good experience and experiential advice, I think, because not everybody clicks. That's just the way it is. So in this binder, you do a couple things. You take notes as you're being with the person, but you're also including your key documents, or
You
not?
are, yes. So
Okay.
you want, obviously, the death certificates, if you had any wills, living trust documents, could be, unfortunately, power of attorney. A lot of people don't know this, but they cease upon the moment of passing.
Okay.
So if you try to take a power of attorney and go into a bank and say, I have this, for my late husband or whatever that means, it's no longer active. That's it.
Okay.
So it's really important. This is also in my article to, just a housekeeping item for all of us is to make sure we have beneficiaries on our financial accounts. They don't have to be joint owners. They can be what's called transfer on death.
Okay.
So, and if we do lose our spouses, it doesn't have to be done right away, but it's smart to update those beneficiaries.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah, because you don't
never
want
know.
your children or your family to have to go through probate.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, it's much easier to just re-register the accounts.
And I've found people that, when they start talking about documents, you don't even realize, and you have expertise as Social Security, but, you have to bring so many things to them. So when you're talking Social Security, it's not just like I had my husband's wallet. I had his Social Security card and, I had his ID and all of that. And I knew his numbers, of course, by heart. But that's not enough. I have to prove that we were married. Of course, I have to have the death certificate. There are 2 types of death certificates. Nobody really tells you all of this. I mean, maybe you hear it from the funeral home, but you're so completely, out of it, I guess, that you don't even know what they're saying. So there's a long form and a short form. And what I found was that if you're dealing with a bank or some sort of financial institution, or you are a beneficiary, that you're going to have to provide the long form. And I guess that's because it has to have the cause of death. Is that
Yep,
Correct.
cause of death and other important information. A lot of times these companies will also want it with the raised seal, which
Yeah.
you'll get some from the funeral home, whoever helps you with that will give you some death certificates. If you can ask for more, do so.
I did.
Yeah, and because if you need more later, you have to go down to the county
Oh,
clerk,
right.
and you
Court.
have to the court of probate, and you have to ask for them. And they're in Flagler County. They're $10 a piece, I
Yeah.
believe.
I found
So
I found that about 12 worked out for me,
yeah,
but everybody's different, but you have to know that you're going to need them.
yeah,
That's for
and
sure.
even ask companies, Sarah, if I have to send this in, can
Yeah.
you?
Which one?
And then can you just mark that you saw the certified copy? I'll give you an envelope with a stamp to send it back to me. Sometimes they will. Doesn't hurt to ask.
No, it doesn't hurt to ask. So going on to the next topic that you had, what was it?
But one of the things I think that's important, and you and I have talked about it, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with finances, but don't get rid of your spouse's old cell phone.
Oh my gosh, that is so true.
So many people don't think of that because now they're thinking, okay, I have to pay, I have all these bills. Let me, consolidate and let me get rid of stuff. But how many times do we have to authenticate ourselves on our? My husband is joint on all of our bank accounts,
Right.
but I'm the one who gets the authentication codes. So to not be able to get access to these accounts is going to be so frustrating.
I found that.
So hold on to that cell phone
Yeah,
for a
I
bit.
found that. So it was Steve was the one that always did, our banking and all of that, and he had everything going to his phone, to his email, because he had an email and I had an email, and just like you said, the two-factor identification. Oh well, just go to this and no, you can't. You can't even get into anything unless you have that phone there with you. So for the first, I'd say 3 months, I had two phones. I had my phone in my hand, and then I had his phone, because they were going to do it. They were going to, I couldn't change it until they were going to do their two-factor identification. And then once they did that, maybe I had a chance. But if you get rid of it, and you do think about the money, because you just lost half your income.
Yeah.
So you start looking at things, well, I don't need that. Well, I don't need that. I would, boy, triple stamp that one.
Yeah.
Because it's just not something that you think about. And it's also hard because you don't want to see that phone go off. You know what I mean? Like, it's just been a week or two, and all of a sudden there's a text message. And it just, it just does something to your heart. But it's really important. I have people that I am friends with that to this day, and their husband maybe gone a year, and they're still struggling to get things squared away because everything still goes, even though companies will say, that's why I say it's a lot of circling back around. Companies will say, oh, we've got it. But what comes in, hi, Steve. Yeah, right, to his email, not to mine. So it is something that is very, very important to hold on to.
Yeah. I mean, there's other places that you can save money. One of the things is call your auto insurance and remove that individual as a driver on your policy. So there's other ways that you can trim the budget in the short term. And that is one of the other points is maybe not in the first couple of weeks get through your celebration of life or however you choose to honor your spouse, but at some point sit down and look at your expenses. And this is an overwhelming task, I think, for any of us.
It is.
But then to do it in that headspace. But what I found is a little bit of a cheat is just go back 6 to 12 months in your checking account statements or your credit card statements, and then just add it up and average it out. And supposed to just trying to dig out stuff out of a file.
Right.
So that can help you as well. From a financial standpoint, too, see what programs are available in your county. Maybe you can qualify for a reduction in your property taxes, possibly energy assistance. There are some costs that that can go up because sometimes your Medicare gets more expensive depending upon your income level, but sometimes your income is still cut.
Yeah.
So when you pass away, the smaller of your two Social Security checks goes away.
Right.
And that's some of the,
That people don't even know that.
no, and when I'm working with couples at the time or individuals at the time that they are retiring,
Yeah.
and they're asking questions about
Right.
Social Security and their claiming strategies, that's one of the things as a planner that I look at is life expectancy, their health, and should we hold off on one benefit just to maximize it a little bit for that day, hopefully far into the future, where that will be the only check that lives on.
That's really thinking ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not know that, and we both made about the same, but I think there was a difference of maybe $50. And it was a friend of mine that actually told me to make sure that I asked about that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known. There's another death benefit that you can get. I think it's like $250.
Yeah, it's
one-time
$255.
thing, yeah.
Yeah, that they put that in establishment decades ago
Yeah,
and
it's
have
silly.
never
Yeah,
adjusted
it's
the
pretty
dollar
bad.
amount.
It's pretty bad. I kind of chuckled when you said property taxes because, yes, there is a widow's benefit. It's so sad. It's so poor that, of course, any little bit helps, but it's not like they say, oh, well, you lost half your income. We're going to give you 10% off your property taxes. That doesn't happen. But I sure wish and hope and pray that somebody might be listening somewhere that would understand that, there's a whole group of people out here that are just kind of hanging on by their fingernails. And, I'm blessed. I'm lucky. I'll be fine. But I mean, I had to do a lot of things, and I did things I'm sure you would tell us that are not right. I should never have, in the first 3 months, looked at everything and decided to sell my house. Or, I mean, I did so many things that I think they say give it time, right? Because your brain is crazy. And you're sitting there thinking, well, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. And in your haste, you're probably causing, a lot of other problems in your wake.
And that can happen. I also know in life we can't go back. So
No.
what's done is
It is,
done.
it is, right?
It's, now how do we go forward? What I wish and what my goal is, and this is why I connect with you so well, is just trying to get information out there. Because as you said, a lot of people are just hanging on. They maybe can't afford to do, go
see a
engage.
professional.
Possibly they're concerned about fraud too. There's a lot of, you don't know who to trust.
No, we don't.
And so just having some of this information out there accessible, even if it just has them ask a couple of questions before moving forward with something, I think that's really important. From a financial aspect too, the other thing I go back to is preparing for the time when the tax year after your spouse passes away. So there's actually a term for it when I was working through some of my designations and courses. It's called the widow's trap.
Why is
Such
that?
an ugly,
Yeah.
ugly name. It's because in all these years you've been filing
Right.
jointly.
Right.
So the tax bracket thresholds are more generous. And then all of a sudden, the first full year that it's only you, now you're
Now you're bumped into
different tax brackets more often than not. And so you may also want to look at increasing, whatever that looks like, or you need to put a little bit of money aside for, to pay your taxes. But it's helpful to consult with a CPA or whoever does your taxes, and you don't have to wait until, you're getting your tax paperwork together. Call them sooner rather than later and say, this is the situation that I'm going to be at. If you work with a financial advisor, this is the situation. They're going to know, but do you need to adjust any withholding amounts on pensions or Social Security, whatever that looks like, but get some advice ahead of time so you're not caught off guard.
What a terrible thing, the widow's trap.
It's ugly. It is ugly.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Like anybody wants to be here and have to file single instead. I think they only give you do you 2 years before you're not allowed to check that box anymore?
And not even in some cases.
Yeah.
So, I'm not a tax preparer, but just from my experience, and we've had clients that have reached out and asked that question, and they've been told, no, they were past
Can't do it.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I found was we didn't have a lot, but we had a couple of, it's an IRA or a 401k, and you're the beneficiary. So you start going through that process. And what I found out later was that I might have been able to roll over. Why would I want to do that? Well, part of me wanted to have that cushion because I knew I was going to need it. But maybe I didn't need to have, if there were two, maybe I didn't need to have two. Maybe I could have had one and spread it out. But I didn't get that info. So we're running out of time. But let's end on this one in that, what would you counsel people to do?
So look at all of your options, and unfortunately, there's a shortage of information.
Mm-hmm.
You're a highly educated woman. That the information was not provided to you.
I read it. It said if it's under this amount, you can't roll it over.
Yeah.
But
And unfortunately, fortunately for spouses, you can do. You have the option of doing a spousal rollover, which can be more advantageous than doing what's called an inherited IRA. Because if it makes sense to do a spousal rollover, there's no taxes at the time. There's no tax consequence at the time. You roll it into your name, and then you can take the distributions. If you're over a required minimum distribution age, you have to continue with those distributions.
right.
But with other types of inherited IRAs, there is a time period in which you have to spend those assets down,
Right.
or you took a distribution. And then now let's say your distribution was $50,000, just, ballpark. And now it could have put you into a higher tax
Different bracket.
And now you're giving Uncle Sam more than you
And
necessarily
then it
needed
messes with
to.
your Medicare, Medicaid
Oh, yes.
too.
There's all kinds
There's
of
another way
ripple
they
effects,
get you on that one, too.
unfortunately. So, yeah.
Wow. Well, we're going to kind of wrap up. I want to thank you for coming in. Is there one last thing that you might want to share with everybody?
I would just say, give yourself credit. You're doing a good job. Some days you're going to have the energy and wherewithal to do it, and some days it's just going to be better to pour a cup of tea, and
sit
that's
down and let
that's
it go.
okay as well.
Yeah.
So, and ask your professionals for a timeline, whether it's your financial advisor, CPA, what has to be done by what date, so you don't feel
Pressured.
yeah,
More pressured than you already are.
exactly.
Well, Bianca, I just want to thank you for your wonderful, sweet, giving spirit and all your knowledge and for being willing to give your time today. And I hope that everybody got something out of it. I know I did, even though I've been through a lot of this. It's really critical that we talk about it. And I say all the time that for all of you, we're not alone. We're going through this. We're gonna get through it. We don't want to stay in the valley. We want to come out of the valley. And to do that, we need to kind of know that there are other people like us that are going through this. And we do want to know that God is with us, and He's with the lonely and the brokenhearted. He will give us the strength that we need. And we are all looking for that promise of beauty for ashes. So thank you so much. And I want to say goodbye. This is Dr. Phyllis Edwards, and I'll see you next time on The Widows Speak.